Good morning, class. So today we'll start with the female reproductive system. We have done it in a little brief in the previous class, but let's discuss it and then we'll go to the fertilization, that is a main event in the human reproduction. So now, what is the female reproduction or reproductive organs composed of? So the main female reproductive system is located in the pelvic region, that is the region below the abdomen. So that includes a pair of ovaries. The ovaries are two in number, and then a pair of oviduct, the uterus, cervix, the vagina, as well as the other parts that includes in the external genitalia. Now, what are the accessory ducts? The oviducts, the uterus, and vagina are called as to be the accessory ducts. Now, there is also a pair of mammary glands, and those mammary glands are mainly for providing nourishment to the offspring. So now all the parts are integrated structurally and functionally to support the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and childcare. So all these different parts have their role in the different processes, starting from ovulation and till the child is born, and in the childcare also these organs are helpful. So now you can see in the diagram the location of these different parts. The cervix, this is the cervix, the vagina, then the uterus, urinary bladder, and the urethra. So these are the some major parts. Now this is a sectional view of human female reproductive system. This is the endometrium, the innermost wall, the myometrium, and the perimetrium. All three are contractilable, that is they increase and decrease as per the requirement. As when the baby is born, the size of the uterus and then the cervix increases due to the contraction in these. Then this is the uterine cavity. The cavity is present, which is inside the uterine wall, covered by the uterine wall from outside. Then these are the pair of ovaries. They are two in number: the cervix, cervical canal, and the vagina. Then the female gonad and ovaries. What are the ovaries now? The ovaries are a pair of small, they are the oval organs in, and they are located in the abdominal cavity. So the main function of ovary is to produce ova. At the time of birth, a female already has thousands of immature ova in her the ovaries. So the ova are already present since the birth of a female has happened. The ovaries contain ova in them. Now, many of these degenerate during childhood, and when the female is still a child, then many of these ova gets degenerated in the ovary. Now when the maturation start of this ova, the ova start maturating when the female reaches puberty. So till the female is not reaching its age of puberty, that is 12 years, starting from 12 years in the case of female, till then these ova remain dormant, that is they are immature. But once the female reaches the age of puberty, the ova starts to mature. Now there is a cycle of 28 days. Every 28 days one of the ovaries releases an ovum, and when an ovum is released from the ovary, it is taken up by a thin fallopian tube. So where is a fallopian tube? In the diagram you must have seen, this is the fallopian tube. The isthmus, ampulla, and infundibulum combines together to form a fallopian tube, and one ovary releases an ovum. Singular for ova is ovum, and one ovum is released from the ovary. This ovum is taken up by this fallopian tube. It is a funnel shaped structure, and it has an opening. Through this opening the ovum enters. So now the ovum is passed down the duct, and this is passed into the uterus. In the uterus, this is the uterus, and from the fallopian tube the ovum is being carried into the uterus. Now from the uterus it passes out of the body through the vagina. This is the vaginal opening, and from here the ovum is passed out, and the ovum is very much small, and therefore it is not very easily noticeable. Now what is the fallopian tube? We'll discuss a brief about fallopian tube. The fallopian tubes or the oviducts, the fallopian tube are also called as oviducts. So these are a pair of thin tubes and lead from the ovaries to the uterus. Now each fallopian tube has a funnel shaped opening near the ovary. These are the funnel shaped openings, this is present near the ovary. So it is lined by cilia. The cilia is for the movement, so that the ovum is easily uh, reaching the fallopian tube opening. So cilia helps in the movement of the ovum from the ovary. Now what is uterus? The uterus or the womb. So the womb is the term that is used in common language for the scientific term uterus. It is a hollow, pear-shaped, elastic, muscular structure. So its upper portion is opening into the fallopian tube, and the fallopian tube enters into the uterus by a tube, that is this tube. So through this tube the fallopian tube is entering into the uterus. Now there is a narrow lower portion that is called the cervix, and this consists of a very much higher number of ring muscles are present in the cervix region. So the uterus opens into the vagina through the cervix. There is a fertilized ovum which develops into a baby inside the uterus. So when the fertilization has occurred, the fusion of the male and female gamete has occurred, this zygote, which is the product of fusion of male and female gamete, is matured inside this uterus. Now the fertilization occurs, but before reaching the fertilization we'll have to study a lot more. So this is the structure of an ovary. So there are a very much higher number of ovaries, as I told you before also. So when the now there is every month cycle. The cycle is of 28 days, and a primary follicle transforms into a Graafian follicle. So there are some follicles, also called as the primary or ovarian follicles, that are present inside the ovary, and these mature every month. So when they mature, they are now called as the Graafian follicle. So why does this follicle mature? I told you the two hormones, the testosterone that was for the maleness, and that was also called as a male hormone. And then I told you about the follicular stimulating hormone, the FSH, it was for the female. So this hormone, when is released in higher amount due to the stimulation of FSH, the Graafian follicles are mature. So the Graafian follicle is about 2.5 centimeter in the diameter, and it has a secondary oocyte. This oocyte is oocyte. This is a secondary follicle. This is the primary follicle, and then this is being surrounded by a few layers of follicular cells that we call the discus florigerous. Florigerous is the word that is used for the coverings that are surrounding this secondary oocyte. So this secondary oocyte is suspended into a small cavity, and that cavity is called as the antrum. So antrum is a hollow cavity into which the oocyte is being suspended, or it is lying there. It is not completely in there, it is hanging in there with the help of a stalk. So now the stalk is called as the cumulus oophorus. It is also very much important. So now from a multi-layered membrane granulosa of follicular ganirosal cells, where the outermost is called theca externa. So now there are layers present. The outermost layer is called theca. Theca is the word used for covering, and it is called as the theca externa. Then one layer that is present inside is called the theca interna. So now antrum, it is filled with a semi-viscous fluid, and that fluid is called as the liquefied folliculi, and it is secreted by the follicular cells. So these follicular cells secrete some semi-viscous fluid into the antrum, that was a cavity, and into this cavity the secondary oocyte was being suspended, and that fluid is called as the liquefied folliculi. The term is used folliculi because it is being secreted by the follicular cells. So now follicular cells are endocrine in function. What is the endocrine? Now the difference between endocrine and exocrine is that endocrine secretes their whatever the secretion into the blood itself, but the exocrine secretes whatever they are being secreting to the outside of the body. So the follicular cells are endocrine, that means they secrete that secretion inside the blood, and the follicular cells here, what they secrete, the estrogens, that are the female sex hormones. So they release estrogens. So the cortex of the ovary may have a yellowish conical endocrine gland. This is called the corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum, when degenerates, it becomes white in color, and there are no more supply of blood vessels. This is the corpus luteum, and when there are no more supply of the blood vessels, this becomes smaller in size, and this becomes the corpus albicans, and it becomes white in color. This is after the bleeding phase of the menstrual cycle has occurred. Now we'll talk about the accessory ducts. Already told you about the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 centimeter in length, and it is starting from the periphery of each ovary and it reaches to the uterus. Now the part closer to the ovary funnel, it is uh, called infundibulum. It is this is the infundibulum, that is funnel like in shape, and this are the fimbriae, which are finger like projections. The main purpose of the fimbriae is to collect the ovum after they are being released from the ovary. So now the wider part of oviduct is called the ampulla, and isthmus has a narrow lumen, and this joins the uterus. What is womb or the uterus? So the single uterus is present in lower abdomen, that is region also called as a womb. It is a hollow, uh, the word is wrong, it must be hollow. It is a hollow inverted pear shaped attached to the pelvic wall with the help of ligaments. So what are ligaments? There are two different muscular tissues, the ligaments and tendons. The ligaments join bones to muscles and the tendons join the bones to bone. So these hollow shaped inverted structures are attached to the pelvic wall by the help of ligaments, and inside the uterus the fertilized ovum grows and it develops into embryo. So the cervical canal along with the vagina, it is also called as the birth canal, because during the birth of the baby the cervical contracts or relaxes. All both the movements occurs, the contraction and relaxation that helps in the delivering of the baby outside. That is the process called as parturition. So I told you about the perimetrium, myometrium and the endometrium. What is the function of these three layers? The perimetrium is the most external and it is very much thin and membranous layer. Then the myometrium, it is the middle layer, and it is made up of the smooth muscles, and the most strong contraction during the delivery of a baby is done by this myometrium. Then the endometrium, these are having glandular layer and they are lining the uterine cavity. The cyclic changes that are occurring during the menstrual cycle are due to the presence of this endometrium. So all these three layers have their specific functions. So the external genitalia that comprises of mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and clitoris. So the mons pubis, it is the part that is a pad of fatty tissue that is covered with the hairs. So the presence of hairs is mostly for the purpose of protection. Then comes the labia majora. It is a fleshy folds of tissue that is surrounding the vaginal opening. The labia minora, it is a paired folds of tissue which comes under the labia majora. And the clitoris, it is a tiny finger-like structure that lies at the upper junction of the two labia majora. So the clitoris, it is a finger-like structure. It seems like that it is a tiny finger, and it is the position of it above the labia majora. Now hymen, it is lying just inside the opening of the vagina, often torn during the first coitus, and the presence of or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity. So during the olden times it was considered that the hymen if the hymen is broken down, then it was not considered that someone is virgin. But it is not the true criteria for deciding the virginity, as the hymen can be broken down by many other ways like horse riding and cycling, and that's why it is not a very particular criteria for deciding the virginity. Then we'll talk about the gametogenesis. So now the origin and development of gametes is called the gametogenesis. This may be divided into spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So the spermatogenesis deals with the development of male sex cells, and these male sex cells are called as the sperms, and where they are developed inside the male gonad, that is the testes. And the oogenesis, it is a development of female sex cells called as ova or eggs, and these are developed inside the female gonad or the ovaries. We'll talk about the spermatogenesis first. So the entire process of the spermatogenesis can be divided into main two processes or phases, that is the formation of spermatid. What happens in this? The male gonad, known as the testes, this is the site of spermatogenesis. So the site means the process of spermatogenesis occurs inside the testes. So in each vertebrate there is a presence of a pair of testes. That means there are two testes present in each vertebrate, and these remain attached to the dorsal body wall by a connective tissue, and the connective tissue by which the testes are attached to the lower body is called the mesorchium. Now, each of these testes is formed of thousands of minute and elongated coiled tubules. These are called as the seminiferous tubules. So, the inner lining of the seminiferous tubules, it is called as the germinal epithelium, and this germinal epithelium is made up of primordial germ cells, that is the primary germ cells. Now, the testes, it is present inside the dorsal body wall, and it is connected by mesorchium. Now, this testes is divided into many tubules or coiled structures. These are called as the seminiferous tubules, and then these seminiferous tubules are lined by germinal epithelium, and these are called as the primary germ cells. As well as there are also presence of some supportive nutritive tissues, and these nutritive tissues or cells are for providing the nourishment to the growing spermatids. So the primordial germ cells or the primary germ cells give rise to spermatids through the steps. These steps include the multiplication phase first. This is the first multiplication phase. In this, the primary germ cells multiply by repeated mitotic division. So what does multiplication means? Multiplication means something increasing to a very much higher extent, and this process is mainly accomplished by the repeated mitosis cycles. There are two cycles, the mitosis and meiosis. Meiosis is the reduction division, and mitosis is the division that is helpful in increasing the number of cells. So the primary germ cells divide mitotically, and the cells produced after the final mitotic divisions are known as the spermatocyte cells or spermatogonia. So now, after the multiplication phase, the spermatogonia, these are produced, repeat one mitotic division, another mitotic division. Now the cells produced are called as spermatogonia or the sperm mother cells. Now occurs the growth phase. What occurs in the growth phase? The spermatogonia, they do not divide for some time but increase in size by accumulating the nutritive materials from the supporting cells. That is, the growth phase is for the growth of spermatogonia. In this, they do not perform any division, but they keep on accumulating the nourishment from the nutritive cells. And what happens in the mammals? The supporting cells, these are called the Sertoli cells, and these Sertoli cells are for the providing of nourishment. Now, when the enlarged spermatogonia are now called as the primary spermatocytes. So now, after the complete enlargement of the spermatogonia, the new term that is used for them is the primary spermatocytes. Then comes the maturation phase. First was the multiplication, the growth, then the maturation phase. What happens in the maturation phase? During the phase of maturation, the primary spermatocytes divide by meiosis. Now the meiosis occurs. Now the meiosis consists of two successive divisions. That is, the first division is the reductional or the disjunctional reducing, and it reduces the chromosome number from 2n to n. It is the reduction division. Meiosis is always known as the reduction division. That's why it reduces the chromosome number from 2n to n. Now these cells are now called as the secondary spermatocytes. The second division is also done, and this second division is the equational, resulting in the formation of four daughter cells called as the spermatids. Now what happens in this? Listen, when in the maturation phase the primary spermatocyte has entered, it performs the meiosis. The two divisions are there. First is meiosis, and this meiosis is the reduction division, and in this reduction division the chromosome number is changed from 2n to n. Then comes the another division, that is the equational division. Now the chromosome number remains same, that is n condition is maintained, but the division is occurring. Therefore this division helps in the formation of four different spermatids, and all these four daughter cells produced are called spermatids, and these have the chromosome number of n. Now the hormones that are being useful in this spermatogenesis: the gonadotropin releasing factor, that is the hypothalamic hormone, then it secretes its secretion to the anterior pituitary. What is the function of anterior pituitary? The anterior pituitary releases two hormones, the luteinizing hormone and the follicular stimulating hormone. Then again, LH or the luteinizing hormones is responsible for the release of androgens. Androgens includes the testosterone, and the follicular stimulating hormone is for the Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are for providing the nutrition. Then androgen stimulates the spermatogenesis, and the secretion of factors for spermiogenesis. So what is spermiogenesis? Sertoli cells are responsible for spermiogenesis, and the androgens are responsible for spermatogenesis. We have discussed spermatogenesis, that was the formation of the four daughter spermatids. But what is now spermiogenesis? Spermiogenesis is the second phase of spermatogenesis, and during this, the spermatids produced at the end of the first phase are metamorphosed into sperm cells. That is, once the spermatid were formed in the division, that was the equational division, now these are metamorphosed or changed into the sperm cells. So the spermatid is a typical cell that contains nucleus and cytoplasmic organelles. So the organelles, cytoplasmic organelles that are present in this are mitochondria, Golgi body, centriole, but the nucleus only contains haploid number of chromosomes, that is only n number of chromosomes. So what happens during spermiogenesis? The transformation occurs of the spermatids. So the large spherical nucleus becomes smaller by losing water and usually changes its shape. Now it becomes elongated. This spermatid is undergoing some changes, and that is during the spermiogenesis. It is becoming elongated as a tail-like structure is oozing out from it. The Golgi bodies get condensed and it forms a cap-like structure. These are the cap-like structures. Now Golgi bodies when form a cap, now they are called the acrosome, and they are found in front of the nucleus. So this cap is found in front of the nucleus. These are a modification of the Golgi bodies. Now nucleus and acrosome combinedly form the head. This is forming the head region. Now what happens? While the cytoplasm with the mitochondria and centrioles move downwards, the centrioles and the mitochondria are moving downwards to this region, and this region forms the middle piece, and this lies behind the head. This is the head that includes acrosome, that were the Golgi bodies, and this is the nucleus. Now behind this is present the middle piece. Now the two centrioles of the middle piece, they are developed by the axial filaments, and these are for providing the flexibility and for providing the movement. So these goes below, and these are now found in the tail and for the purpose of movement of the sperm to the ovum. So now this completes the process, that is now spermatid is completely transformed into a motile sperm, and this motile sperm is divisible into head, middle piece as well as tail. Now this is, you can see the structure of a mature sperm. What does it look like? The acrosome, this comprises the head, the acrosome, nucleus containing chromosome. This is the middle piece. Middle piece contains the mitochondria, and this mitochondria is for the purpose of providing energy during the movement of the sperm. This is the tail region. The tail region usually contains a number of centrioles. So now we'll talk about the oogenesis. So the oogenesis occurs in the ovary of the female animals. It is comparable to the spermatogenesis so far as nuclear changes are concerned. Now some nuclear changes are only different in the two, that is spermatogenesis and oogenesis, but the rest remains the same. The cytoplasmic specialization in the oogenesis, it is completely different from the spermatogenesis. The cytoplasmic specialization, we have seen there was almost negligible change in the amount of cytoplasm, but in oogenesis there is a very much higher changes that will be seen in the cytoplasm of the cells of the ovum. So now again, this is also divisible into three phases: the multiplication phase, the growth phase and the maturation phase. Now what happens in the multiplication phase? The primary germinal cells of the ovary, which are of diploid chromosome number, that is 2n, they divide several times mitotically, and they form a large number of daughter cells. These are called as the oogonia. Now the oogonia is formed by the maturation, that is by repeated mitotic divisions. Now what does now growth phase includes? The growth phase, that is the oogonium, which was developed in the multiplicative phase, does not divide but increase in size, and this forms the primary oocyte. So the growth is associated with both the nuclear and cytoplasmic growth. In the case of spermatogenesis, we have seen that only there was the growth in the all together the size of the spermatid, that we have seen in the case of spermatogenesis, that there was no increase in the size of the cytoplasm, but in this the growth is separate of both the nucleus as well as the cytoplasm. So now the nuclear growth is due to the accumulation of large amount of nuclear sap and is termed as a germinal vesicle. When the nucleus is growing to a very large size, and this is usually due to the accumulation of nuclear sap, and now this the term used for this nucleus is the germinal vesicle and the cytoplasmic. So now the division or the increase in the size of cytoplasm includes all the cell organelles that are present in the cytoplasm, and also some reserved food materials that forms the yolk or the vitelline. Now comes the maturation phase, that is the third phase in the process of oogenesis. In the maturation phase, the primary oocyte that was formed in the multiplicative phase undergoes two successive divisions by meiosis. Successive means one after another. So the first division is meiosis 1, and two unequal daughter cells are produced in this division. The larger is called the secondary oocyte. This contains haploid set of chromosomes and the entire amount of cytoplasm is present, and the smaller one, it is called as the first polar body or the podocyte. It contains n number of chromosomes and it have no cytoplasm. So the larger one, it contains the haploid set, that is n, and complete cytoplasm. But in the second one, which is called as the polar body, it do not have any cytoplasm, and in this also the number of chromosome is n. Now the secondary oocyte and the first polar body, the secondary oocyte is the larger one and the polar body was the smaller one, then they both also undergo secondary maturation division, which is the meiosis second, and it is the equational division. Meiosis second is similar to the mitosis division. So as a result of this division, one large ovum is formed containing entire amount of cytoplasm and n number of chromosome, and a second polar body is produced. This is same as like the first polar body. Now simultaneously, the first polar body may divide into two polar bodies or may not divide at all. So it is not important that the first polar body which is formed has to be divided. It may divide into two or it may also not divide. Thus only one functional ovum is produced, and two or three polar nuclei or bodies, they soon get degenerated, and in the vertebrates the first polar body is formed after the primary oocyte is released from the ovary. Now the second polar body, that is formed only when the sperm enters into ovum during fertilization. So the for function or the formation of this secondary oocyte is secondary polar body is only after the fertilization has occurred, that is when the sperm has entered the ovum, then only this second polar body is produced, otherwise it will not produce if there will be no entrance of the sperm and no fertilization. Now what is the ripening of egg? Now oogenesis is followed by the formation of a protective covering, that is called the egg membrane. So the primary membrane is formed surrounding the plasma membrane of ovum, and it is secreted by the ovum itself. The outermost layer of the egg is called as the vitelline membrane, and in the some lower animals like frog and rabbits, the Xena pellucida is present, and the secondary membrane, it is called as the chorion or the chorion. It is formed from the ovarian follicles. So this is for the development of egg that we'll discuss later. You can see the diagram for yourself, that this is the development of follicles, the degenerating luteum, the corpus luteum. This is the egg that is being released after it is matured. Now we have discussed the oogenesis. This is the diagrammatic picturization of what we have discussed so far. You can see for yourself the second polar body, the first polar body, and the entry of sperm. Then only the secondary polar body is produced, and the secondary spermatocyte helps in the formation of the mature follicle. Now we'll talk about the menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle is a very important event in the females of the human, and not only in the humans, in some other animals also this cycle occurs, and this is not called as the menstrual cycle in others, but it is called as the cycle of primates, and it is different, and it is a lot more easier and very much less complex as compared to the cycle of the humans, that is the menstrual cycle. Now what happens in the menstrual cycle? The menstrual cycle includes 4 phases. The menstrual phase, that is the bleeding phase. Then comes the follicular phase. This follicular phase is the phase just before the egg is being released. So when the egg is not released, the follicular phase is running, but if the once the egg is being released, the follicular phase ends. And the bleeding phase, as I told you, the menstrual phase itself. Then comes the ovulatory phase. What happens in the ovulatory phase? The egg is when the egg is released, then this phase is called as the ovulatory phase. Then the luteal phase, which it occurs after the release of egg. So the egg release is set as a benchmark for the different processes, that is before and after the release of egg. Before the release of egg, the follicular phase occurs. Then after the release of eggs, the ovulatory and the luteal phase occurs. So in the life cycle of a human female, this cycle plays a very important role. The starting of this cycle is called as the menarche, and the ending of this cycle is called as the menopause. So we'll talk about the menarche first. It occurs mostly at the age of 10 to 13 or maybe 15 sometimes, in when the puberty hits the female. So this is the menarche. And what happens in the menopause? The period when the ovulation and menstrual cycle stops, and this is the average period of the menopause is currently 50 to 52 years, and in some this occurs gradually in between a period of 1 to 5 years, while in some this occurs abruptly. So it is average, if we see, then it is 50 to 52 years in the females, but it is not very much necessary that this year or nowadays it occurs in the age of 45 to 50 only, so it is not important. Now the characteristics, what the changes occurs when the menopause occurs. It is characterized by the hot flushes, that is the sensation of warmth that spreads from the trunk to the face. From below to the upper, there is a flush of very much hot or warm blood, and very much also psychic changes are being seen, that is the disturbance in the hormones are also seen, and that relates to the psychic symptoms. So FSH is secreted into the urine. The increased amount of follicular stimulating hormone is a also can be said that menopause has start to occur. So what is the cause? The decline in the estrogen level, and when the decline in the estrogen level occurs, then we called it as the menopause. So we'll talk about the 4 phases first. What are the 4 phases in the menopause? First we'll start with the follicular phase. It is also called as the proliferative phase, or the menstrual or the pre-ovulatory phase. Post-menstrual because it is occurring after the bleeding phase, and pre-ovulatory because it is occurring before the ovulatory phase. Now it follows the menstrual phase, that is it occurs just after the menstrual phase and lasts for about 10 to 12 days, that is from the 5th day to the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. And what are the changes it accompanies? Under the stimulation of the FSH of the hypothalamus, there is increased secretion of FSH from the anterior pituitary. That is from the anterior pituitary, the amount of follicular stimulating hormone increases, and this FSH stimulates the change of primary follicle that was formed in the ovary, and now this primary follicle changes into the Graafian follicle. Now follicular cells of the Graafian follicle, they starts to secrete the estrogen, and estrogen have some very much drastic effects. So the estrogen stimulate the growth, maintenance and the normal functioning of secondary sex organs. Now uterine endometrium becomes very much thick and more vascular, that is more blood supply is there, and more glandular, that is more glands are being secreted into that place. That is the endometrium is now very much thickened, the uterine glands become tortuous, and the shape changes to the corkscrew shape. So now this is the preparation for implantation. Implantation was when the zygote that was formed after fertilization implants there or attaches to the placenta for uterus for the growth. Now the epithelium of the fallopian tubes, they also become thick and they become densely ciliated, and the presence of these cilia is to conduct the movement of the ovum. Now there is also an inhibition this estrogen level when increases very much, they inhibit the secretion of follicular stimulating hormone, and they start to secrete the luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary. So now the high levels of estrogen, they trigger the ovulatory surge. Now when the estrogen level is very high, they start to trigger that. Now they start to uh, increase the ovulatory phase, and the cycle now comes to the third phase, that is the ovulatory phase. The ovulatory phase involves the ovulation from the Graafian follicle of the ovary. Now the ovary is being released, and it occurs in the midway of two menstrual cycles, that is, it occurs on to the 14th day of the onset of the menstrual cycle. The follicular phase occurs on the 5th to 14th day, that is a 12-day cycle, and now it occurs on the 14th day. It is caused by increasing the turgidity and the contraction of smooth muscle fibers around the Graafian follicle. The fibers that are present around the Graafian follicle, they start to contract and relax, so that the release of ovum is easy. Now ovum is received by the fimbriae of the fallopian tube, and ovum is viable only for 2 to 3 days. Now the ovulation is controlled by the increased level of as I told you, in the follicular phase also the amount of FSH decreases and the luteinizing hormone increases, and now this ovulation process, it is under the control of this luteinizing hormone. Now egg at that time in the secondary oocyte stage. So at this time in the ovulatory phase, the egg is in the secondary oocyte stage. The luteinizing hormone start the change of empty Graafian follicle into corpus luteum. Now the Graafian follicle that is now empty, as the ovary is being released from its inside it, it is start to change into the corpus luteum, and the another hormone starts to release, that is the progesterone, and this hormone is released from the corpus luteum. So there is no much change that is seen in the uterine endometrium during the ovulatory phase. Now last is the luteal phase. What happens in the luteal phase? During the luteal phase, it is also called as the premenstrual phase or the secretory phase, and this phase lasts for about 12 to 14 days and extends from this starts from the 15th day and to the 20th day of the menstrual cycle. It is characterized by some changes. What are the changes? The corpus luteum, which is yellow color, formed from the this is formed from the empty Graafian follicle. It starts to increase in size, and now this is this marks the starting of the luteal phase. The increase in the corpus luteum shows that now the luteal phase have started. Now the corpus luteum secretes the progesterone hormone, which induces the changes. The changes that occur are the decrease in the secretion of FSH and LH. Now both these gonadotropins, the gonadotropins that is the FSH and LH, are decreased in secretion, and this decrease in secretion of the LH and FSH inhibits the maturation of follicle and ovulation. Now the ovulation and maturation of follicle both gets inhibited or stop. Now uterine endometrium further proliferate, that is, they goes on dividing further and further, and now they are completely ready for the implantation process. The uterine glands secrete uterine milk for the fetus, and in the luteal phase there is also the reduction in the uterine movements. Now comes the menstrual phase. This phase, it lasts for about 3 to 5 days and extends from the 1st to the 4th day. So now what does this complete 28-day cycles is composed of? 1st to 4th day comprises of the menstrual phase, then from the 5th to 14th day the follicular phase, then from the 14th day only it is the ovulatory phase, and from 15th to the 28th day it is the luteal phase. Now what happens in the menstrual phase? When the ovum, as I told you, ovum is only alive or only available for 2 to 3 days. Now when there is no fertilization, the ovum remains unfertilized, the corpus luteum that starts to degenerate now. So the level of progesterone in the blood start to decline, and the uterine tissues, they fail to be maintained. So now the uterine tissue cannot be maintained as there is no fertilization, and progesterone is the hormone that is responsible for the uterine for the maintenance of the uterine tissue, and if no fertilization, the corpus luteum start to degenerate, and corpus luteum is the one which is responsible for the secretion of progesterone. So now progesterone level decreases and uterine tissue cannot be maintained. Now the unfertilized ovum along with the ruptured uterine epithelium, it secretes about 50 to 100 ml of blood, and some mucus is this is discharged from outside the body through a vaginal orifice, and this is called as the menstrual flow or the menstruation. So decrease in the level of progesterone and estrogen in the blood stimulates the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. So now again the FSH level starts to increase in the body for the another or the next menstrual cycle. So this was your menstrual cycle and it is completed. Now in the next class we'll start with the fertilization and we'll try to end the chapter.